Hello, everyone. It is the Redmen Podcast. We are back, the champions of England, up and flying with a win over Chelsea. I am Paul Machin. I'm joined by the BBC's Emma Sanders, by our very own John Machin, and by our even more very own Mr. Chris Pajak. It's your... You own the place, Chris. So yeah, it's fine. I never really think these things through, to be honest.
No, really.
You're looking great. Yeah, you're looking very aerodynamic. Yeah, like you've gone for your pre-lockdown haircut.
Me.
Mm.
Yeah, I had to. I didn't want my wife to cut my hair again. It's the honest answer here. Please, just go ahead. I'll come in at 7 o'clock at night. It doesn't matter. I just don't want the wife doing it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, quality. The kickoff question this week comes from Len LFC. He says, if you get one cybernetic body modification, what would it be? For example, better eyes with zoom, bigger bladder capacity, expanded memory storage, etc., etc. Chris, well, I've got you. I'll start with you on this.
Well, I think there's a blindingly obvious one, isn't there? And for me, that is a bigger thigh muscle, a bigger left thigh muscle, like a computerized left thigh muscle. I think
left thigh muscle.
Yeah, because that's my kicking leg, and so I want to play football. I want no one to know that I'm going to do it, and then all of a sudden I'm just going to blam one in from 100 yards, so I can basically score from my centre back position where I am on the field. And I just don't. What I'll do is I'll play a little bit right footed to begin with, and then all of a sudden, pow, goal, 1-0, centre back scores again. Either that or a new back. That's only because mine's shit.
Okay, sad. Emma, what would you do?
I'm so glad you explained that question, because I was like, I haven't got a clue where he's going with this. I mean, I've always wanted to fly, so just chuck some wings on the back.
Just chuck a wing or two on, like,
yeah.
Go on, just bolt us a wing on. I'll be absolutely fine. Yeah, you go in the garage. You're not going to your local garage to get this done. This is like you getting put in a $1 billion lab, I'm presuming, if it's cybernetic.
Yeah, I mean, probably. I've been playing too much Spider-Man. Yeah, I want to fly. Give me some wings.
Okay. Dad, as a fan of the Blade Runner now series, of course, is there anything you'd be robbing straight directly from there, or is it something else?
No, it'd just be simple eyesight. It would just be really good. You can see for miles. That would be great.
I am the eyesight one's really interesting, particularly because you've spent a lot of time having your eyes resorted in recent weeks and what have you. But the ability to just record what you see and in the way that you see it, I think is fascinating. I mean, there's an episode of Black Mirror which is a very, very unsettling version of this, but there is something to. It's just so annoying having to get a camera and set it up and do all these things. To be able to just record in your line of sight would be loads and more easy, and have a nice simple way of downloading it and exporting it or whatever would be very useful to me. Let us know.
Where do we go in for these things, Paul? Are we like, is this like exhibits type of stuff? Are we just heading into the garage or something?
Well, I'm going to my local corner shop.
Yeah, right. Emma's quite clearly going to a garage where, like, with a leaky roof and oil stains on the floor to get her wings bolted on. But I want to go to somewhere like Cyberdyne Systems. I want to go somewhere where if they want to spark the robotic apocalypse, then they're perfectly capable of doing that.
Nice.
Where do you think you're going for yours, Chris?
Probably, like, basically it's not too far off a butt lift, I think, in what I'm going. So I'm probably going to where the Scouse girls go to get the lifts and their arse done, to be honest. And to be honest, they're well practiced. I mean, I don't know how many people have got experience of sorting your eyes out, but sorting my bum and my leg out, I reckon they'll be sorted.
You've already got, maybe like I thought you might go for a reduction in that way, but you've already got a substantial. It's fine. There's a lot of junk in the trunk.
The danger with one thigh is you'll end up going round in circles, mate.
Okay, how'd you put the power down? Yeah, it's like having monster truck wheels on one side of your car.
Yeah, maybe I'd have to go for both thighs. Okay, we'll do both thighs. I'm not picky and I've not thought this through.
Great. Okay, South. Let us know yours in the comments, just for a laugh.
Right, we're gonna really, 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 really big
toe.
pair of lungs.
We're going to talk. We're going to talk the mighty Reds. We're going to talk a little bit about the Chelsea game. We're going to talk about of course, Kylian Mbappe rumours that have been re-sparked by L'Equipe over in France. The return to stadiums and why it looks like it's going to be postponed at the moment, and obviously a bit of upset around that. And a little bit about our rivals. Historic and genuine, and how their seasons are shaping up so far, and basically it's just an excuse for us to show on a bit of a chance to laugh at the Manx, which is great. We will get to that all in very, very short thrift, but before I do, we have got some brand new merchandise available on the Redmen shop. Is also available underneath the video on the lives on YouTube, and in fact every video on YouTube, but here's a little advert to tell you what it's all about. Simple as that for all of your t-shirt, sweaty hoodie, but sweaty, stuck up sweaty, isn't it? It's making it sound really bad. It will be if you wear it because they're very comfortable and warm. Mugs and all that good stuff. Go and check the Redmen merch out. It's great. It's absolutely great. Right, okay. We're going to continue to bask in the Chelsea win. Dad, we've not really had a chance to talk about it too much. It was just lovely. I mean, there's obviously the circumstances around it. Chelsea being down to 10 men for 45 minutes contributes in some way, but just Liverpool, I think, showed the class from start to finish, really.
Yeah, we totally dominated the first half, didn't we? It just looked inevitable. I mean, I'm surprised because last season Chelsea actually played really well against us at times. And they gave us a lot of trouble. But in the first half, it was like they threw all that away. And they were scared to death of us. They just sat back and tried to get Timo Werner on the ball as often as possible, not realising that in Fabinho, we just had someone who had no messing from him.
I think it's interesting because, you know, everyone was talking about these new players that Chelsea have brought in, and we're all envious. You know, they've signed some absolutely fantastic talent. You know, I think a lot more eyes were on the Bundesliga because of restart, and with it being the only football for a couple of weeks before the Premier League came back. You know, I saw more of Havertz than I would have done normally, and you know, I think it's interesting. Like, kind of following on from what my dad's saying there, I wonder because they've signed all these players and they go, "Oh, God, we're going to be a real threat," but these lads have all been watching Liverpool. You know, they're all young, you know, footballers. They'll have watched everything that Liverpool have been doing, and they will have been a fear factor from them, I think. You know, it's not like signing, you know, I mean, if Thiago Silva played, I don't think he would have because he'd have a better measure of us. It's not, you know, and we've got our Thiago coming in who's been there and done it all. But these are, you know, Werner and Havertz, massive talents, but this is a step up for them. And I think there will have been a degree of maybe awe and a little bit of fear of them walking into that game.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you come to a new club and you're trying out new systems and you're working with new teammates, you're in new formations, to come up against a well-drilled side like Liverpool in only, your second appearance, you are going to play it safe because you don't want to make a mistake. You don't want to be that new signing that goes and makes a mistake against Liverpool. So that's probably why they did play the way that they did, because they hadn't had that time yet to kind of work on the way that probably Frank will have them playing by the end of the season. So, yeah, I agree with John. I just thought it was like watching Jose Mourinho's bus back again. And it was like, you know, they didn't really go for it. You could see the game plan. It was all about getting the ball to Werner. And, you know, Werner was a threat, but Fabinho just was brilliant at centre-back. And if he's our fourth choice centre-back, then Jesus Christ, we're good.
That's a good point. Well, we've obviously chatted a lot about this game, Chris, but the Frank Lampard stuff and then maybe Chelsea's approach, it's very difficult to tell on one game whether it's just Liverpool being utterly dominant, obviously, again, to mention it because it is worth mentioning the red card, or whether there's a degree to which Frank Lampard just fiddled with his tactics or his approach a little bit more than he could have done. But I don't know, I was expecting Chelsea to just be a lot more expansive, to be a lot more dangerous, and it just never really materialised.
Yeah, that's right, to be honest. I think there's loads of factors. Obviously, John and Emma have just talked through some of them. I think the fact that, Liverpool had something to play for this time around, whereas the last time we played them, we didn't really have loads to play for and stuff like that. So I think Frank's gone a little bit too conservative, to be honest. I think he respects that, Liverpool are a good side and they were the better side going into the game. And, he went conservative to try and hit them on the counter-attack, and he gets his tactics wrong on the day. He could have gone all out and got his tactics wrong on the day, though, couldn't he? That's the other thing. I mean, if he'd have piled in, they could have lost 5-0. And what does that do to the new lads and their confidence going into the season? And there's a lot of lads there. Thiago Silva, you got Ben Chilwell, obviously didn't start, but then throw Kai Havertz in, Ziyech, Werner. They get hammered 5-0, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, is this manager right? Does he know what he's talking about? Because it's all right for the lads who were there last season who saw him get good results and stuff like that, but you don't want them sort of thinking to themselves, oh, actually, I'm not sure about this. Why did we do that? Are we that poor type of thing? So he's gone conservative, I think, and decide it's not set up yet. We're not seeing Chelsea at their best. We will do, because
is that a bit
stupid?
Coach. Because it's a bit stupid, though, really, to go to do that approach when you've not got your defence up and running. I mean, I get it. Like, if you've got your better defenders out there on the pitch, or maybe it's an effort to counteract that. But he's got Zuma in the back four, he's got Kepa as the goalkeeper, and to try, what Chelsea had going for them, Chris, was they had the good attacking lads on. It's a bit mad that he has put us maybe just a bit too much stock in those other lads who were probably getting about to be upgraded.
Let's not forget that last season he went at us and lost every game apart from the cup one where Liverpool rotated. So he's tried attacking us and it's not worked really, has it? Ultimately. So why not try something a little bit different? But I get your point and I understand it. Now, when you are trying to defend as a team, it's probably better to have a couple of lads in there that know how he wants them to defend. I think putting Kovacic and Kante and Jorginho ahead of them said that it was going to be that type of a game, because they're lads that can defend and can get stuck in and try and win that midfield battle. They didn't win any of the battles anywhere on the field. That's ultimately what it comes down to. The one-on-ones, they didn't win. The team game, they didn't win, and they didn't score goals.
Yeah, interesting stuff. We had a comment coming in here from Crazy C30. Emma, did you see Klopp telling his bench never celebrate the Chelsea red card? It's a nice little touch, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, this whole rivalry, I think that Frank and Klopp, that people have tried to build around Frank and Klopp, it just doesn't really exist, does it? I think both
Frank
of them.
and Klopp sounds like some horrendous Halloween costume waiting in the wake, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. But yeah, no, I think look, like, they both respect each other as managers, and I think any team that celebrates another team getting a red card that's just you don't want that. So Klopp's a good guy. So yeah, it's nice.
It's totally fine for fans to celebrate a red card, by the way.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, fist cartwheel. Dance, scream at your telly, whatever it takes.
I must admit, if I was a Chelsea fan, I'd have been really annoyed at the way we played. That whatever Frank's thoughts were, to actually, sort of give up the ghost before you'd even started the season, I would just be livid, absolutely livid.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a weird performance in Chelsea. I think we can all understand that, they've thrown, this is the knock-on effect. I think we all look at the names and you go, it's great, because when you're playing FIFA and Footy Manager, and look at this, two teams do hit the ground running, so this isn't just one of those kind of comments from me here, but teams they take time to gel, they take time to gain an understanding, and particularly, we were talking about it on the final word, Chris and I, Dad, but they played a different formation against Brighton, and they've changed the formation for Liverpool. So, like, the lads who are new haven't even got like a game to back them up on this.
No,
So it was going to be disjointed.
I mean, most good sides don't change their formation very often, if ever. You know, and Chelsea seem to change it with the wind. But if I was a Chelsea fan, I'd be thinking, they're bringing in all this talent. I want to see something on the pitch. And he's actually made the side worse.
Yeah.
But by bringing them in, you know, I mean, and God knows what the likes of Tammy Abrams think, stuck on the bench now, probably forever. You know, and Mason Mount, it won't be long before he's on the bench.
Yeah.
All the good work he did early on last year, bringing the kids through, I think it's going to go out the window.
Yeah, no, it is going to be interesting to see how he balances that, because I'm sure we've seen it from Chelsea managers in the past. You know, Abramovich seems to have taken a bit more of a hands-off approach in recent years, but you know, I wonder whether he
with other clubs' players. Apparently, did you see that last night? He has
what was that, John?
He has some kind of ownership in players who play for other teams. Teams
Fabulous.
who may have actually played against Chelsea at some time. So
fantastic! I bet they were all in that. I bet they were all in that Perugia meeting with Boris Johnson as well, all having a chat. Oh, sorry, there was no. I don't know what I'm talking about. There was no Perugia meeting.
There was. We just don't know who was there.
Yeah. Chris, I thought one of the things that really stood out, we didn't really talk too much about them on the other shows, but I mean, Andy Robertson in particular, I mean, the praise goes towards Mane, it goes towards Alisson, it goes towards Fabinho, naturally the stars of the show on the day, but Andy Robertson and as well Mohamed Salah, the two players I think who struggled most with fitness towards the back end of the season, ongoing problems, didn't look quite as sharp, or for a variety of reasons, they both look 100% back on it this season.
Yeah, and I don't know the full reasons why, but I'm guessing they're well rested is the first point. Andy looked like, well, Andy's played a lot of football, and basically, you know, obviously Chimikas coming in there as well has probably given him that little lift. I mean, he looks really good at the moment, like the best version of Andy Robertson that we've seen. He's flying down that wing defensively, he's resolute, he's still good in the tackle, his positioning's been really good as well. So he is such a dangerous weapon when he's on form, and Mo Salah as well. I mean, you know, he could have quite easily had a couple of goals, but it's the way that he has kind of changed the way he's playing, to be honest with you. He's not as tied down to that sort of area of the field where you think of Mo Salah. He's literally running across the formation now, and he's just looking to make things happen. And, you know, I think it was last week we mentioned it, didn't we, Paul, about, like, you know, when he's not trying to score, he's a better player. And he just seems like much more of a team player at the moment, Emma.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, we can't really talk about Andy Robertson without mentioning the banter that he had with the King on Twitter yesterday. Did you all see it? About his book? Oh, it was brilliant. It was just like the best bit was when Mrs. Dalglish came in and called Kenny a leg end.
Yeah.
And
did you see the Kelly Cates follow up?
Yeah.
So, like my mum tweeting off her charity foundation account by mistake in response to an accidental double tweet by my dad, with changing the passwords. It's just absolutely brilliant.
Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely in the best possible way. But Andy Robertson, and maybe it's just because he's had this. He's been writing this book and he's been staying up till all hours, you know, scribbling away on his laptop or whatever. But he does seem, for whatever reason, and you know, I think it's both. I think it's having a fella there who he knows is going to be breathing down his neck for his starting berth, but also I think him having a real bit of time off. And I think this will be true for a lot of our players, because of the way Liverpool play and the intensity and the play through the pain barrier kind of thing. They'll have all been carrying a lot of like niggling injuries that, you know, you don't individually, not enough to keep it out, but cumulatively start to take the toll. And it looks like, particularly those two that I mentioned, they look free of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I've spoken about this a lot before, but the mentality and the kind of concentration levels that they've had to have for 2 years, basically consecutively, to compete for the Premier League title alongside City, is obviously going to be absolutely exhausting as well. So I think you look at their physical state, but then also just that mental break, I think, is so important. And Robert's obviously had that, and it's like, this is very much a clean state now. Obviously, it's the way the season ended last time. It was, you didn't really know when they were coming back. So when the players then came back, you know, for the restart, you could tell that they hadn't really had that mental break, because they just had to be ready to go basically whenever. So now they've had a solid time period where they've said, no, this is your time off. This is when the season then starts again. And you can tell that they've all just had a fresh start, and, you know, and it's starting from page one again.
Yeah, I think that.
I just think that Mo at the end of last season, the edge had gone out of his game. He missed so many chances. I said he obviously had his boots on the wrong feet because he got the chances, but he missed them. You know, like in the first couple of games that he played when he first came. You know, he just got there but didn't quite have the edge. And suddenly now he's back on his, totally 100%, on his game, and he just looks phenomenal. I mean, that's for the first goal, the first touch pass back to Bobby. That was just unbelievable. Absolutely.
We see it happen with forwards, though, don't we, Dad? Philip? I think Fernando Torres is the shining example of this, but Robbie Fowler had the same, Owen had the same. When you pacey forwards and you are the focal point of a team, you just get booted everywhere constantly. Salah gets kicked left, right, and centre every single week, and there's just something to. I think Emma talked about it, a bit of a mental break, but also that thing of there's probably just underlying bruise. I always think back to me and Chris used to play five-a-side indoors on a Monday, and the bruises from the week before hadn't healed by the time you came to play the next Monday, so you were just adding bruises on top of bruises on top of bruises. It took you'd have to have 2 months off just to have your legs go back to the right colour, and I wonder whether that's it with Salah.
Well,
we've seen players
Mo
burned out before.
Had a break for years, I wouldn't have thought, because of his playing for Egypt and all the rest of it. It must have been absolutely brilliant for them to suddenly have nothing to consider, to be bothered about, and just relax with your family and chill out. As well knowing what you'd done in the previous season, how the heights you'd reached. But he just looks brilliant for us. I mean, he's not alone. I mean, a lot of them are the same. A lot of them seem to be really on top of their game as well. It's almost as if they're absolutely determined to make a good fist of retaining the title.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
There really is an edge to them, which is great to see.
Absolutely.
Henderson particularly, I mean, he only had a half, but in that half, I've never seen him pass the ball so much in my life. Maybe you'd watch Thiago for a while on video before he went out and thought, I better make a few more passes.
I don't think he got anywhere near Thiago's passing, though, did he? But he had about half as many as Thiago.
Anyone ever will.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Because we found out, Chris, we've been talking about this. Klopp said that Thiago had one session on his own, then he had one session with the group before, and I wonder whether that individual training session, whether they just had them all upon the rest of the squad up on the balcony, just kind of looking out over him, or had him on CCTV, and they're all crowded round in the security hut, or watching him do his thing, going, oh my god, look at that.
It turns out, I think I've heard this video footage of it, and it was a bit like Star Wars, where they put the helmet on him, and he's throwing his lightsaber around, swinging passes out to Trent and Robbo with a helmet on, so he can't see where anyone's going, and everyone's like, oh my god, yes, he's the absolute one, he's going to bring balance to the force, and everyone was made up to.
Yeah, they're all direct quotes. I really like that. Right, we've had some super chats come in because we are live on YouTube right now. Our Baus freestyle with 2,499 super chats, simply Redmen, and then you deserve 1 million subs. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. We don't because we haven't got them. Dan Meyer as well says, lads, I'm 10 minutes behind on the stream. Got here late. We'll catch up, but you'll be fine. You'll catch up eventually. That's how it works, right? Stephen Somerville saying, since we've now got Thiago and Jota, do you think our squad is fine to go into the new season, or do you feel there should be one more deal done, Dad?
Well, the squad clearly is fine. It's functioning really well. I think the only question mark seems to be whether we need another centre-back, and a lot of people saying Fabinho proved that we don't. I'm not so sure. I'm still not happy with our centre-back's injury record, so I'd be happy with another centre-back coming in.
Yeah, I think I made a strong case for the Joe Gomez fitness record in last week, Chris, and then he's in for this game.
It's easier to make a strong case when he's not injured, though, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
No, I think when you look at the strength of Matip as our fourth choice centre half, I think that's pretty good, isn't it?
Gomez is our third choice.
Yeah.
Fabinho was the second best centre half in world football.
I'm like John, to be honest. I think we do probably need somebody, but it's whether we can get that right profile of player in at the right age with the right experience level. And if you can't, then you don't, basically. And because I think in a couple of years we're going to have two young lads there in Van den Berg and Cabetio who are going to be sort of that age that you want. You're back up to be maybe 23, 20, between 21 and 23. So I think we've got high hopes for them. And if you can't get someone who's maybe 28 in, who's maybe coming up from somewhere middle of the table, and then is happy to come up to the best team in the league and sort of sit behind and wait for his opportunities, then I'm not sure what you're asking, because you don't want someone who has been there and done it. Like Thiago Silva, I wouldn't want a 35-year-old coming in, but I want someone who's playing week in, week out at maybe 28 years old, who wants to make that step up in the career. If you can't get that, I think you just wait for the young lads, if you can.
I mean, I think there must be 23-year-olds around who'd be happy to come. And they will get games. I mean, you just look at, Matip and Gomez are on fit again. They probably would have played and Fabinho wouldn't have done.
Thing is,
we'd have missed out on a great performance, but we'd have had a proper centre half in the team.
Yeah. Profile wise, though, this is the struggle: is that you've got Virgil van Dijk's in his prime, Matip's in his prime, Gomez is 23. He's in that category of the age where we'd be looking to buy at this point, and then you've got your 17 and 18-year-olds as your backups. Like I think it's tough to go and buy another. I think it's either got to be a 30-plus-year-old, because that's the only thing you're missing.
You've got to remember that Matip was only going to play 20 games.
Yeah.
I mean, he's never going to play any more than that. And Joe Gomez, his record doesn't suggest he's going to play too many more than that either. So, it makes sense to have someone else to come in and play the other 20.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting one, but thanks very much for the question. Just dropped an absolute hand grenade into the middle of the show there. That's great. Let's move on to some more flights of fancy. L'Equipe are reporting that Liverpool will be one of the clubs in for Kylian Mbappe next summer. They're saying that at the moment he's got 2 years left on his contract at PSG, and it means that Liverpool will be sniffing around alongside Real Madrid. And look, Chris, there'll be plenty of time for this to get shot to pieces. But right here, now,
now's the time to dream, Paul. Now's the time to dream, mate. It's the hope that you live off, isn't it? At this point, and why wouldn't Mbappe want to come to Liverpool? Yeah, Liverpool might not be able to afford him, and they might not be able to afford his wages, but we just don't know what's going to happen in a year's time. Yeah, like I think, and I said this 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, Liverpool are planning for this to become, 10 league titles in 13 years. That's what we're aiming for. And to do that, you're going to need to plan beyond Mo Salah and beyond Sadio Mane and beyond Roberto Firmino. Now, Mo Salah and Sadio Mane are two of the top 5 players in the world. Close to whatever. You can argue with me on it, or anyone can, whatever. It's a matter of opinion. Mbappe's in that category. Well, we've got 2 of them. And we've got Van Dijk's up there as well. Why wouldn't one of the others want to come to us? Can anyone tell me? I mean, Mbappe likes us. He's spoken about us. He's talked about us being a machine. Now, if you can afford him, go and get him.
Yeah, I know, I agree on that, and I don't. This is the interesting point, isn't there? It's not a flight of fancy to think that Mbappe would want to play for Liverpool. Of course he would. Why wouldn't he? Liverpool are now established once again as a Champions League club. Two finals in 3 years. They're going to be in that clutch of sides who are going to be challenging for it. Particularly while Klopp's still got he's got years left to run on his contract as well. It's an exciting prospect. You got the atmosphere, you got all the love that goes with it. There's the Nike connection and all those kind of things. There's no reason why he wouldn't want it. It would only ever fall down on, again, as Chris kind of alludes to, is the money side of things. But I think there's a conversation to be had around that.
Yeah, it's always about the money, isn't it? I mean, I'm 98% sure that story is a load of bollocks. But as Chris said, I'm gonna be tweeting announce Mbappe every day for the next 3 years until we sign him, because why not? He's definitely the one player, and I said this off air before, but he's the one player that I would sign in world football. I'd sign him ahead of Messi right now, just because of the long-term investment. Like Chris says, it's you're bringing in somebody who I genuinely think is is going to be the best player for
he's 21 years old and he's this good already.
He's incredible. Like, and it is all about that money. But as you said, like coming into a team at Liverpool where you've got arguably the best manager in the world, you've got the best centre back in the world, you've got two of the best forwards in the world. Like even Mbappe training against Virgil van Dijk every day, that's going to improve his game. So why wouldn't he want to come to Liverpool?
Yeah. Thoughts on this, Dad?
Well, Liverpool are the coolest team on the planet, so yeah, he would want to come. There's no doubt about it, absolutely no doubt. And maybe he'd be willing to lower his wage demands to achieve that. I don't know. Well, I think what Liverpool should do is bid for this contract of 100 billion that the government are going to have for this fabulous moonshot. And apparently they're going to charge for the tests afterwards. So it's just a license to print money. You just get that contract. I mean, Edwards will get that contract, no problem. Go and get that contract, buy Mbappe, no problem, and you'll still have change.
Absolutely nailed on. I completely agree with all this. I look, just to kind of try and ground it in a touch of reality, though, Chris. I think the only situation where this would even be a possibility is there's two things that have to happen. It is that he doesn't sign a contract extension, and PSG enter into a world where if he says I'm done and I'm just going to run my contract down, then it lowers his asking price, and it also obviously increases PSG's need to make it to move him on, to not lose out on too much money, but also. Look, I think it would be dependent upon one of Salah or Mane going out the door, and I'm not sad about that because, again, all three of our front three are in a similar age bracket. Mane's slightly younger, but like by half a year or whatever. That's how the system has to work. At some point, one of those lads is going to get moved on for really, really big money, and that does actually open up a conversation about Liverpool being able to replace a world-class player with a world-class player.
I think that's absolutely spot on. And, it feels almost dirty talking about it, but it's not. I mean, this is what we're planning for. As I mentioned, I said it's a succession plan. Now, to me, and I've always said this, Salah's probably got the most market value and probably will hold that value a little bit longer as well. Now,
marketability.
Yeah, I think so, and everything that goes around it, how big he is in his country and in that area of the world and stuff like that. So, I could quite easily see Salah going for 100+ million to Real Madrid and us getting Mbappe with the change, and I don't think it's so out of the realms of possibility. I thought this summer, if everything had gone as it normally would, Liverpool would have broken £100 million on someone, and I genuinely think that probably would have been Jadon Sancho or something anyway. And I still think that I think it's just been kicked down the road a little bit. I think we are going to splash big. I think we know what it takes to stay at the top of the Premier League, and we know the riches that comes with staying at the top of the Premier League. The longer you can stay there, the more commercial deals you get, the more competition winnings you get, the more money for the Champions League you get, and everything grows off the back of that. So Liverpool are moving through the gears in terms of commercial. We're not at the peak of how much money Liverpool can bring into the football club. Get another Premier League, get another challenge for the European Cup, bring more money in and see where we are then. So I and especially with him having a year left on his contract and liking Liverpool Football Club, the only thing I would say is, do you need to tie Klopp down for an extra couple of years for that to happen? Yeah, because will Mbappe come over with 2 years left of Jurgen Klopp? Who knows? But maybe if you can revitalise Klopp by revitalising the squad, then everything stays for a little bit longer.
You've got to do like the Alex Ferguson thing, where Klopp goes, okay, I think I'll just look, and then you show a new shiny thing and be like, would you sign a new contract, a new 4-year extension for 4 years of Mbappe? Probably more than you would in many other players, just for the chance to trade him. I reckon he maybe would. Anyway, Chris mentions peaks, so let's kind of neatly segue on. The return to stadiums looks like it's going to be postponed by the government. Yeah.
Great segue, that's the best in the history of Redmen.
So smooth.
Emma, the government have been gearing up for this. I think we all kind of knew it. The talk was October, and there was the chance that 12,500 might be allowed back into Anfield. It's gonna be pushed back. It's gonna be paused by the looks of things. Which, given the current world climate, when you're telling people that they can't go into friends and families' houses, it would seem a bit mad that you could put 12,500 people in a football stadium. Doesn't make us any less disappointed by it.
Yeah, it is disappointing news, and you know what the knock-on effect for the clubs lower down the pyramid, and obviously for non-league football, national league teams, etc. That's going to have quite a dire effect, really. Less so on the Premier League teams, but yeah, I mean, our understanding, I don't know whether it's been reported yet. I've not really been on my phone for the last 2 hours, but our understanding is that those pilot events, which were sort of 1,000 people, I think they've sort of been halted for now as well. So it's not great news. But as you say, kind of expected, really. I sort of had it in my head that, there wasn't going to be any fans until the new year, and I've kind of made peace with that. So anything that, kind of came before that in my eyes was a little bit of a bonus. So mentally, I'm not too, I haven't really had too much of a sort of step back in that point of view. But yeah, I think, like I said, I think it's more disappointing for those clubs lower down that really, really need fans in, and, they need that money and they need that interest, and people need their crowds. We were talking about Sheffield United, that they've obviously had a tough start to the season, and they're one of those Premier League clubs that they need fans behind them. I think teams are just suffering now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, we're all just going to become #United fans and follow them in the FA Cup by the looks of it anyway. But look like a great laugh. Dad, I mean, just from your perspective on this, because I know you've had a spell of shielding and what have you in this. If Liverpool were able to announce 12,500, would you be putting yourself in the ballot for that?
No, well, not especially. No, I mean. We all agree we want football fans back in stadiums, but I'm highly suspicious of this government doing anything. And if they tell me, "Oh yeah, it's safe," I think they're only doing that because they want the economy to be better, and not because they want me to be safe.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are other reasons than COVID why I wouldn't rush back. And I do think we have to be very, very careful about, big crowds of people, because you talk about 12,000 at Anfield, 12,000 in that stadium, safe distance, no problem. But what about outside? Yeah. How do you have 12,000 people not congregating? I went into a pub the other day, and the people were not safe distancing, because it was impossible to, if you wanted to get near, and go and buy a drink. I just thought to myself, 12,000 people.
There's a knock-on effect on the public transport as well, isn't it? How people get into and from games, and then there's the area in the concourses, and it
leads to a situation though where and it needs to be carefully managed. I think I would rather hear the FA and the Premier League talk about this, which is mad that I've got a world where I actually trust the FA and the Premier League more than I trust the actual British government, because let's face it, none of them are particularly fit for purpose at times. But I want to see football. I want football to have their own response to this and see what they're doing, because I don't want this, Chris, to end up being an issue where football fans, it becomes a polarizing thing where football fans are demanding to be, are putting pressure on when we don't. It's like anything, we don't. It's the science behind it. I want to be back at Anfield. I do. I'm so bored of watching football games on the telly. I'm at the point where if they said to me, would you sign a health waiver or whatever? I might do, but that's a dangerous attitude. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. That might be the most stupid thing anyone's ever said. But I think these conversations are going to end up happening. It's not long before you talk sport end up having a big campaign to get people back in, on whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing.
I think that it may cause loads of trouble as well if 12,000 people are allowed in. All the people who are not allowed in, how unhappy are they going to be? You'd have to have a really tight system which was above board and everyone agreed was perfect. And no one, you just see the ballots for tickets, how people get annoyed about it. Yeah. There's something I wondered as well. It may just be stupid, but the number of goals being scored in football matches at the moment, do you think that might have something to do with the fact that there's no crowds and people haven't got the adrenaline running through them? They're not scared of making mistakes anymore because they're not going to get pilloried by 50,000 people.
We were having this discussion on the BBC Sport website this weekend that, a lot of people were tweeting in asking the same question. And I think it's a mixture of two things. I think, yes, you haven't got the adrenaline and you've got that bit more creativity and a bit more freedom to make mistakes because you know that you're not going to get, abuse essentially from your own fans or, from away fans in the stadium. But then I also think the fact that you haven't got crowds there, perhaps, you're maybe not quite as concentrated. If you go like one way to the other, it's when you've got all those people watching, you have to be alert every second of the game. And sometimes as the game goes on, if you haven't got that crowd, it might start to feel a little bit like a training session. So I think you go from one extreme to the other. I think the crowd helps in terms of, building up adrenaline, but also, helping with concentration levels as well. So that's an interesting one.
Anything to add, Chris?
On the crowd stuff, I think I'd want to get back into the stadium as soon as I can, to be honest with you. And, I'm not like COVID's a scam in any way, shape or form, and I'm not so far the other way either. I err on the side of caution on these types of things. I mean, I've had people in my life that have been affected by it, so it's not a scam. It exists. You, Paul, had it for a start. And my wife had it and stuff like that, and I've never seen her as ill as she was for those 3 weeks and stuff. Now, the handling of it, I don't want to get into, but what I will say is, there are people like me who will want to go back to the game and who will try and keep themselves socially distanced. Now, you can't rely on everybody doing that, but it's on each individual person to keep themselves away from the next person closest to them. And that can sometimes be a difficult thing in social situations and stuff. I'd like the football clubs themselves to take control of the situation rather than the FA and the Prem. I think the FA and the Prem need to do something, and then the football clubs need to go, right, this is the general guidelines that we've got to work within. This is how we're going to look after our fans, because ultimately that's who we want to look after us, the people who care about us. The FA and the Premier League and the government don't really, but Liverpool, the club, will do.
That's a really good point, actually. You see that good football clubs handle fans better than bad football clubs. I think in the fan experience. I mean, you look at how poorly West Ham fans have been treated, and then we always reference it. We referenced it last week, Chris, when we were talking to Peter Moore. Like Bayern Munich is the best experience I've ever had as a fan going to a football game, just in how mature and and calm the whole thing was. So no, I think you're dead right on that. But yeah, I mean, at the moment it's a shame. I think I didn't really believe it was necessarily going to be happening in October. It always felt a bit soon, but I think we'd all like just putting aside all the bits and pieces because we're not experts on stuff as football fans. I think we just want to get back to being in the ground, because that for me is what football is. Emma?
Yeah, the only thing I would say on Chris's point, I absolutely agree, but then we get into that sticky situation where, let's say Liverpool are able to control bringing in 12,000 fans. A club like, I don't know, let's just for example Newcastle, they might feel like they can only bring in 5,000 fans. Is there then a discussion on whether there's a disadvantage there on in terms of the number of fans that you're getting in stadiums?
Look, there's always going to be a disadvantage, Emma, because there's different size stadiums. Clubs have different size fan bases. Burnley have a stadium for 10,000 people, and United have 70,000 or whatever it is. So these situations, I think, if Newcastle think they can only manage it for 5,000 fans safely, then I'd let them manage it for 5,000 fans safely. It's up to them how many they can deal with, and there's a balancing point between cost as well, isn't there? I think Liverpool, I'd heard at 1,000 fans, weren't going to bother opening the stadium anyway, because it wouldn't make any money. It'll lose more money, and they can't afford to do that. So at 2,500, I think they probably could have broken even and wanted the atmosphere on there. Now at 12,000, you can probably guess that they would make quite a bit of money, and it's worth doing. Now the issue is, you might have a football club who's really struggling, and who decide, in your example there, Newcastle, we can't quite do it, but we need the money. Now that's a dangerous situation to be in, isn't it? So there does need to be some guidance towards it. A staff member per how many people and blah, 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 I don't know.
You'll find football clubs that's the negative. We can't possibly answer every in and out of all this, because for every answer there's a problem for that answer. Is that, we know that there's plenty of examples, and we're using the Newcastle example. There's no way Mike Ashley doesn't find a way to bring in the most money into that situation, not necessarily putting the people called safety, and that might be a bit of a slur or whatever, but I think there's enough evidence to suggest that he does put his own bottom line first ahead of the football club. Right, look, we're going to move things on. We're going to talk about our rivals and how they got on this week. And as I say earlier, it's just a bit of an opportunity to talk about Manchester United. And Dad, we've waited for this for so very, very long, many years of watching Manchester United be really good. And every time you think it's coming to an end, it's a false dawn, and they rise again. And we had a little one of those, I guess, from January onwards, where they had a bit of a resurgence. Bruno Fernandes was the greatest player ever to play the game. And look, I'm sure they'll be okay, and I'm sure they'll be in a top 4 battle this season. But I'm encouraged by what I've seen so far, and it tells me that United are going to have a bit more of a struggle than maybe they'd hoped this season.
Yeah, I mean, I read loads and loads of papers and stuff where people, the journalist or whatever, were asked to give their top 4 or whatever. United were in the top 4 from every single one of them. That everyone believes that United have turned the corner and are going to make a fist of this season and really.
Was it Mason or Letizia who had them top? Like
Chris Waddle, I think.
Waddle, that was it. One of them idiots. Yeah.
And it's that people are desperate for United to be in the winning the league again and stuff. And thankfully, it's not going to happen for a while. And the longer it goes on, the worse it's going to be for them. And we found that, suddenly you look at yourself and you think, oh, we're going to win it next year, we're going to win it. And then you're suddenly 10 years and you haven't won anything, And they'll start winning the Carabao Cup, and they won the UEFA League. And that's exactly what we did. You win everything. But winning the actual Premier League is really difficult unless you're on the top of your game. And, you look at City last night, again, showing with as long as De Bruyne is fit, they're a real force. We look at on top of our game, Arsenal seem to have overcome their defensive frailties. So, where are United in that? Nowhere.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, I'm excited.
Won the league, hasn't it, Paul?
Little while.
So they're not going to win it this year, so that will make it 8 years. So, 10 years, and we're at Arsenal at like 15, 16 years now.
The thing about it, Chris, is that particularly for like the some of our mates who are United fans who are sort of around our age, a little bit younger or whatever in particular, they don't get onto the fact that how quickly 10 years comes around. It won't feel like that long to them. It'll still feel like it's the same club and it's the same time. It's the same way that Istanbul doesn't seem 15 years ago. It's it's still, for me, it's still fresh because you're an adult, and it's mad that's one of the reasons why it kind of creeps up on you, because it doesn't. The older you get, the less it kind of
that's it. Goodison Park's a great example of this, Paul. Like, for an Everton fan going to Goodison Park, it probably doesn't look that old because they've seen the decline over the last 20 years. For me, driving past once every 15 years, I look and go, what the fuck? Is that still standing? You know what I mean? And that's what Man United fans are. They're in the midst of a steady decline and they don't notice it.
Old Trafford is that, though. That's one of the things. There's loads of reports that come out. There was it was a year or so ago when there was the roof was leaking and there was water gushing onto one of the seats. Apparently, it's got a massive rodent problem because it's just so dilapidated on the inside.
Oh, there's a joke in there somewhere, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. What interesting to see, Emma. Interesting to see Everton starting really brightly. I'm not here to see Everton be better than Liverpool in any way, shape, or form. But I would be made up if Everton became at least competitive, and I'd rather see Everton do well than Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, United, City.
Yeah, I covered their game on the weekend, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin under Carlo Ancelotti just looks like a proper centre forward, and I think he deserves a hat trick on the weekend. And yeah, Everton have looked really good, and I think obviously they've made some good signings. The feeling around the fan base, the feeling around the club in general is positive. There was a lot of excitement when Carlo came in, and then he has come in and made a difference on and off the pitch. Even just his kind of aura and the stature that he kind of brings to the club is something that Everton haven't had. I'm trying to think in my lifetime. I can't think of a manager that Everton have had that have kind of brought that aura with them.
They haven't had someone really of that stature since Kendall, and then first time around really.
Yeah.
Kendall and Patrick, I mean, they've had managers who've managed to get them somewhere. I mean, there was still a force up until the mid-80s. And if you look at the teams who've won the title over the last 30 years, there's still probably only 10 teams that have ever won, and Everton are one of them. You know, so they're a big club who've been in the doldrums for a long time, and finally someone had the nous to get in a decent manager.
Shocking.
Yeah.
It's good to see Evertonians talking again, isn't it? A couple of conversations with them in the last week or so.
I tell you what, though, the Merseyside derby now is going to be a lot spicier than it has been for a long time. So definitely a game to get yourself worked up for, and I'm looking forward to that. For sure.
Oh God, without a shadow of a doubt, and it just is what it is. Because it's it sounds daft. There's probably people from outside the city who don't get it in the same way because you can't, because you've got it. You literally almost live with it. You used to, certainly with your brother. 50% of the city, or 51 or 55, however they want to spin it, whatever. To have half of the city you live in just have a black cloud of misery hanging over them at all times, it brings the whole mood of the place down. It's just to see them walking around with a spring in the step, just that it feels it just feels like there's a better atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't have a normal job anymore, but I can imagine that at least during the weekdays, Monday to Friday, they'd be quite happy because there's no footy on for them. Yeah. And it was only until the weekend, that they get really sad and angry because they knew that Everton at some point during the Friday, Saturday, Sunday was going to ruin their weekends. And that's changed now. So I'm sure they're really happy in the workplace during the week and they're looking forward to the weekends. And it's good to see. And, They know as well, like certainly my brother does and the lads I speak to, they still know that they're not at Liverpool's level, but they're just enjoying the ride, and that's okay because you've got to take your enjoyment somewhere, and they've got a great manager, they've made a couple of good signings, and they're happy with James Rodriguez and how he's performing right now, and they're looking forward to football, and that's good, that's nice for the city, and it's great to have a little bit of actual I don't know what the old word for this would be, but proper banter with them. You know what I mean, like just good conversation about footy where you can let your armour down and have a chat and give a little ribbon left and right and know that we're still miles better than them.
Oh God, without a doubt. It's going to be interesting. I think this the narrative around the managers, I think, is going to be fascinating this season, Dad. And Ancelotti is just in that top bracket, absolute top bracket of managers in world football. He's now gone and bought really, really well. The club is being revitalised. I don't expect it to be done in one, to be fixed in one window. I think it's going to take a season or two. But I think that they've got an advantage over United and Chelsea, for example.
Yeah, you have to admire him, to be honest. I mean, you look at Guardiola and other Mourinho. They don't go to teams that need rebuilding. And there's Ancelotti, he's done everything, been everywhere. And he's walked into Everton, who I said before, they're like a sleeping giant in the doldrums. And he's taken that on and he's already made an impact. And, he might not be winning the Champions League with them, but if he sticks around long enough, he'll get them competing in the top levels of the Premiership. He'll be certainly looking for a European place, I would have thought.
Yeah, and he makes individual players better as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, it seems to be the case. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Good. So Man United heading for the Evertonian doldrums, which is nice to see so far. Good to see all their fans. It's just enjoyable. Twitter, is normally not a great place, but it's nice to see Man United fans questioning every decision being made. They're a few days away, I think, from making a mega to their fans, I just shut up, here's a signing for loads of money kind of buy that doesn't necessarily fit what they need.
There's no way they're getting over the line, Paul. They've spent 3 months being a few days away from signing someone, though, mate.
Yeah. But they all, you better listen, that'd be even more hilarious, Chris. I'll be honest, I'm bought in either way, because I don't think what they do is necessarily going to be the answer. They're going to end up either badly paying over the odds for Jadon Sancho, like they've done for plenty of other players down the years, whether it's your Angel Di Maria's or your Alexis Sanchez's or whatever. Or you do with that. They go, no, we're sticking to our guns. We're gonna be responsible with our money. And
they become less of an attractive destination, don't they? The longer it goes on, the less likely players want to go there.
Yeah. Yeah, they're doing a thing at the moment where I reckon they will go big, because it's what they've been doing for years, is that in the absence of the Ferguson effect of I want to come and play for a manager who I know is going to deliver success or get the best out of me, you're doing it on here's loads of money and here's some other boss players that you can play with. I think is kind of a little bit of the thing that they might end up going for, because that's been their modus operandi for a few years now. Splash big on players who don't necessarily suit it, but will be a little bit of a draw unto themselves. But it's not our problem. That's their problem. Let them worry about that problem. Wonderful. Go on, Chris. Final thoughts.
Just finally on Manchester United, they've still managed to maintain a level, I think, where they're looking for signings that they can get the big players. This was their big opportunity, right? And Chelsea, I think, took advantage of this opportunity of getting your Werners and your Havertz's in. Manchester United needed to do that, because what Manchester United are heading for is shopping in that Europa League bracket. Yeah. Next season, when everybody's got the wallets out again, and everyone ahead of them in the league is looking at the top players in world football to strengthen with, they'll quickly find their targets going elsewhere, and they're shopping like Liverpool did for years, seeing our targets go to Tottenham and Chelsea and everywhere else. Man United, if they don't sign someone big and make a big improvement this season, next season their targets won't be there for them, and they won't be able to get those calibre of players.
Well, it's interesting. We'll never know truly what their interest or how far they went on Thiago. But like Chelsea were able to go to Timo Werner and capitalise on Liverpool's inability to get the deal over the line at the time with a big sell and some big money, and we're going to make you the main man kind of thing. Liverpool were kind of dragging their heels over Thiago, and by all accounts, Man United asked the question. They just went,
I think the email
leave Bayern Munich for use.
Paul, I think the email thread went something along the lines of this. Hi, we're getting in touch. We'd really like to speak to Jayden. Thiago. Is that okay? Yeah, we're a big club in Manchester. Which one? United? No, thanks.
Yeah. Unread. Just unread in the inbox. Yeah, fine. Just read the title. Regarding Manchester United ex Thiago, we'll be all right with that one. Right, guys, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Spam. Thank you. Yeah, thank you to everyone who's commented, who's watched us on live. If you listened on podcast after the fact, then make sure you leave us a 5-star review. One final thought came from the YouTube comments I quite liked, from Harvey Bell. He said, "My teacher said, I bet you'd rather have Ole at the wheel than Clippity Klopp after their win against PSG." Well, in your face, Mr. Teacher. You got that one badly wrong. Proof that teachers are human too, but be kind. Right, yeah, thanks so much. Drop a like on this on YouTube. We've got loads of amazing additional content coming for you. We have got the Thiago special. We've got a Jota special. Chris's daughter delved in with Cy Brundish to look at the model that saw Jota being acquired for Liverpool and why the Reds have gone for him. That's up on the RedmenTV.com as well. So if you need more, if you want to bask in Liverpool's wonderful transfer business, then we have got you absolutely covered. Do go over there, do sign up, and yes, get involved with everything. We've also got a 3-part Peter Moore special as well. He came in, we sat down, it was very, very brilliant. It was long as in depth, and it's coming out in 3 amazing chunks in the coming weeks as well. So the perfect time to sign up to the website, support everything we do, and get yourself some boss content. We'll see you there. Ta-da.